very important topic that we are going to take is postal ballot for NRIs. Why is this in news? Because it was recently in news because the Chief Election Commissioner of India has talked about giving postal ballot facility for NRIs. Okay, and he said that in a conference in Mauritius, he said that it has been contemplated by the government and election commission, okay, to provide what postal ballot facility for NRIs. Now, this is going to be the most important topic because in the recent years, a lot of questions have been asked from voting right, is voting right a fundamental right or not, what are the voting rights, है ना, और ये पॉलिटी का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्शन है. इसीलिए we are going to look at the holistic picture of voting rights in India, and then we are going to look at what are the voting rights of people who are not residing in India but are Indian by citizenship, which are called NRIs, non-resident Indians. NRIs are those people who have Indian citizenship. Okay, they have passport of India but they do not live in India. Okay, so these are the three basic statutes and constitutional provisions. Article 326 of course is a constitutional provision. RPA 1950, Representation of Peoples Act 1950, and Representation of Peoples Act 1951. These are two laws made by government. ठीक है, so let's see as to how voting rights are governed in India. Election on Article 326 says that election should be held on the basis of adult suffrage. Adult suffrage means any person who is adult and otherwise not disqualified has a right to vote. That means right to vote is one very important point, is a constitutional right. It is not a fundamental right. There's a lot of doubt in lot of students that it can be a fundamental right because the very foundation of our democracy is adult suffrage, universal adult suffrage. Okay? So, but it's very important to remember that voting is not a fundamental right. It is a constitutional right or a legal right. Okay? Age to get enrolled in electoral roll is 18. Now, Article 326 also talks about the age. अब age क्या है? Constitution originally provided for 21 years. ठीक है? But 61st Amendment Act 1989 reduced this age from 21 to 18 years. Okay, a very, very important point. Which amendment? It can be asked in the paper. Okay. Now, appropriate legislature can make laws prescribing disqualification on the basis of non-residence. Okay. Article 326 provides power to state government and central government both. Both the governments can make laws for the disqualification. A state government cannot say by making a law that this law will be disqualifying certain candidate or certain person from voting right. But it can make a law जिसका consequence ये होगा कि if one person is prosecuted under that law, that person can become ineligible to contest or to vote, है ना? तो इसलिए appropriate both of the legislatures can actually make laws that can make a citizen ineligible to vote. Okay, ठीक है? तो लेकिन बहुत importantly, grounds for disqualification from voting has also been specifically mentioned in the constitution. They can be non-residents, ठीक है? मतलब if I'm not living in India, तो I can be disqualified, ठीक है? या if I am not living in a specific part of India, तो I can be disqualified for voting in that specific region या specific part, ठीक है? If, for example, if I live in Delhi, I do not, and if Delhi is my residence, if I have been registered in the electoral roll of Delhi, so I do not have the right to go and vote somewhere in Kerala. Okay, unless and otherwise I cancel my voting, I get my name cancelled from the electoral roll of Delhi and get registered in some electoral roll of Kerala. ठीक है? तो कौन सा point है? Non-residence, unsoundness of mind, crime or corrupt or illegal practices, and very importantly, RPA 1951 में ये तीनों points disqualification as a voter mentioned. तो ये तीनों पॉइंट वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट है फ्रॉम प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ठीक है. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग कैन बी फॉर्म्ड एज अ डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन फॉर वोटिंग राइट? नॉन रेजिडेंस, अनसाउंडनेस ऑफ माइंड, एंड क्राइम और करप्ट और इलीगल प्रैक्टिसेस. अब करप्ट और इलीगल प्रैक्टिसेस हैव बीन आल्सो प्रिस्क्राइब्ड स्पेसिफिकली अंडर आरपीए 1951. तो आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड अप टिल नाउ. तो इसमें तो हो गया आर्टिकल 326. इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू रिमेंबर कि कौन सा आर्टिकल वोटिंग राइट के बारे में बात करता है. इट टॉक्स अबाउट सफरेज, इट टॉक्स अबाउट द एज, इट टॉक्स अबाउट डिस्क्वालिफिकेशंस. In pursuant to this section, central government has formed RPA 1950 and RPA 1951. Condition of registration as an elector. ठीक है. A person can vote in an election only if his name appears in the electoral roll of that constituency. ठीक है. If his name appears in the electoral roll of that constituency. Electoral roll is nothing but a list of people, ठीक है, who are eligible to cast their vote in a specific constituency. ठीक है. अब criteria क्या है? To get registered, should be not less than 18 years as talked here. ठीक है. Shall be ordinarily resident. ठीक है. Shall be ordinarily resident at the place of registration. मतलब I cannot be registered in Kerala if I am ordinarily resident in Delhi. ठीक है. Can't be registered in more than one constituency. ठीक है. I cannot register myself in one constituency, and I cannot be registered twice in my same constituency. That means these 2 points point out a very important constitutional provision, that is one person, one vote. ठीक है. One person can cast only one vote, and all the votes have same value. ठीक है. This is a very revolutionary electoral process. ठीक है. तो one person can cast only one vote, neither one cannot cast more than one vote either in his constituency or in any other place. ठीक है. Now right to vote, ठीक है, ये तो condition of registration as a elector है, लेकिन right to vote has specifically this specific phrase, the right to vote, has been mentioned in RPA 1951. That means right to vote is a legal right beyond any reasonable doubt. There should be no doubt in your mind कि right to vote is a legal right. Okay, right to vote is a legal right. क्यों? क्योंकि right to vote has been specifically mentioned in RPA 1951 section 17. Every person having name in electoral roll shall be entitled to vote. मतलब if you get registered yourself, you have a right to vote. No person shall vote more than one in a constituency. Understood? No person shall vote in a constituency more than once. ठीक है? I seem to have repeated that point, but let it be. No person shall vote if he is under imprisonment or legal custody of the police. ठीक है? Like if a person is under trial or if a person is under imprisonment, so he cannot vote. मतलब under trials cannot vote. But if a person is under preventive detention, this is a very important point. If a person is under preventive detention, he still has the right to vote. Okay, मतलब imprisoned person cannot vote, but a person under preventive detention has the right to vote. And since we are talking about postal ballot, it is very important to consider that a person under preventive detention has been provided with the right to vote with postal ballots. Okay, I hope I was clear on that, and I hope it gets clear inside your head. Kindly take a screenshot of this whole slide, and this will be very helpful for you to revise. ठीक है. Now postal voting rights in India. ठीक है. Postal voting rights किसको provided है in India में? तो we'll be going to look at that. The first one is special voters, second service voters, third is voters on election duty, and fourth, a person under preventive detention. As I talked, a person under preventive detention has been provided with the right to vote, and specifically they have been provided with the right to vote using postal ballots. Okay, so what are special voters? Special voters स्पेशल वोटर्स कोई रॉकेट टर्म नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट वांटेड कि दे शुड हैव द पावर टू स्पेसिफाई एनी स्पेसिफिक ऑफिस इन द गवर्नमेंट, मतलब कोई स्पेसिफिक ऑफिस इन द गवर्नमेंट, इन द सर्विस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, जिसको वो स्पेसिफाई कर सके कि दैट पर्सन माइट नॉट बी ऑर्डिनरली प्रेजेंट बट ही हैज द राइट टू वोट. मतलब if president, okay, in consultation with election commission, ठीक है, we are trying to understand who are special voters, ठीक है, because special voters have been provided with voting, postal voting rights. And why are we reading this? Because we are going to investigate the topic of postal voting rights to NRIs, ठीक है. तो उससे पहले we need to understand कि who are the people who have actually already been provided with the right to vote as a postal ballot. तो द फर्स्ट वन इज स्पेशल वोटर्स. स्पेशल वोटर्स में वो वोटर्स आएंगे, फॉर एग्जांपल एक हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन कंसिडर करते हैं, ठीक है, एक हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन कंसिडर करते हैं एंड ये कह देते हैं कि टीचर, ठीक है, टीचर्स जो होंगे इंडिया में वो स्पेशल वेट. अगर प्रेसिडेंट डिक्लेयर कर देते हैं, इफ द प्रेसिडेंट डिक्लेयर्स दैट ऑल द टीचर्स इन इंडिया विल बी स्पेशल वोटर्स, ठीक है, तो if president in consultation with election commission declares any office, ठीक है, any office under the government of India, under the government, state government भी हो सकता है, under the government to be of special office, ठीक है ना, तो that office, that person, the person holding that office becomes a special voter. That means if that person is ordinarily not resident, for example a teacher is teaching in J&K, ठीक है, J&K, Jammu and Kashmir में, if a teacher is teaching in J&K and if his original residence where he is registered as an electoral voter is in UP, is in some village in UP, and if president declares after the consultation with the election commission that all the teachers in India will be special voters, so that teacher will be able to vote in that special constituency in UP without being ordinarily the resident of that place, ठीक है. Otherwise, if you want to vote, you can register yourself only in that constituency where you are ordinarily a resident, where you are ordinarily a resident, ठीक है. Now service voters में दो तीन कैटेगरीज हैं. all the people, ठीक है, सर्विस वोटर्स में all the such as all the armed forces, ठीक है, armed forces of central government, ठीक है, or any other force to which Army Act 1950 applies, ठीक है. The government has extended this Army Act 1950, specific act है जो कि कंडक्ट को गवर्न करता है, ठीक है. तो if this act has been extended to some paramilitary force also, तो it can be considered as a service voter, ठीक है. तो either it should be armed forces of central government or armed police force of state government, ठीक है, sorry, state government, but to be service voter, that police force should be serving in another state. In that condition only they will be considered service voters, ठीक है. The third point is all the servants of government of India posted outside India, okay, all the servants like diplomatic people, ठीक है, foreign services में जो है, या any kind of person who is in the service of government of India but is posted outside the country, he can also be considered a service voter and he can also cast his vote through a postal ballot, ठीक है. अब postal ballot की जो चीज है, it has transformed into electronically transferred postal ballot. That means an email will be sent, the person will be downloading that, they will cast their vote, they will upload it, and that is how their vote will be considered, ठीक है. तो postal ballot has become basically what? an electronically transferred postal ballot. Voters on election duty, ठीक है, तो anyone who is already on election duty, that will be having that person will be having the right of e-postal ballot या postal ballot, ठीक है. And as we talked earlier, a person under preventive detention, ठीक है, a person under preventive detention, मतलब these people are only having, that means NRIs are not having the right of postal ballot, ठीक है. तो what voting rights do NRIs have? What do NRIs, क्या NRIs के पास voting right है भी? Do NRIs have a voting right? Any voting right? And if they do have, what kind of voting right they do have? Let's see that. Normally, provisions for NRIs. 2010 से पहले it was not, NRIs did not had the voting rights. ठीक है? You had to be ordinarily present at least for 6 months in the place, in the constituency where you are registered as an electoral voter, to get yourself registered. मतलब RP 1950 prescribes कि to get registered as an elector in the electoral roll, you should be ordinarily present का मतलब होता है for 6 months. You should be ordinarily present in that specific constituency for at least 6 months. So if you are not able to get yourself registered because you are an NRI, तो how are you going to vote? तो 2010 से पहले ऐसा कोई provision नहीं था that allowed NRIs to vote. But in 2010, a specific amendment was done in RPA 1950, ठीक है, and it was allowed that a person who is an NRI, है ना, and उनके passport पे जहाँ original residence का address है, they can get themselves registered in that constituency जहाँ पे उनका passport address है, and they can get registered in the electoral, but to vote they necessarily have to be present. अभी भी if an NRI person wants to vote, they will have to be necessarily present in that specific constituency, although they can get themselves registered without being present. It is very important, है ना? But they can vote only in person. Now if we see the legislative evolution, the first was section 20A added in RPA 1951 in 2010, that basically allowed NRIs to cast their votes through postal ballot, to get themselves registered in the electoral roll itself, but still they were not allowed to cast votes by using postal ballot. Okay. फिर 2016 में an amendment to conduct of election rules, ठीक है, 1961 allowed service voters to vote through ATPS यानी electronically transferred postal ballots, ठीक है. फिर 2017 में एक बिल लाया गया था that allowed postal ballots to NRIs, but that bill lapsed due to the lapsing of the Lok Sabha itself in 2018, and then it was not, that bill did not see the light of the day. So I hope you understood ki what are voting rights in India, what are the provisions of postal ballots, and what are the provisions for NRIs. ठीक है? So there is a consultation going on between Election Commission and government to provide postal ballots to NRIs. If Chief Election Commissioner himself says so, we can expect it in very soon.